The Yellowstone universe might just be standing on the edge of its most heartbreaking, emotional chapter yet. Think about it. 1883 gave us the bloody beginning. 1923 showed us sheer survival. But now massive rumors are swirling about a totally new era, 1969. In this explainer, we're going to break down how this heavily rumored spin-off could finally pull back the curtain on the true rise of the modern Dutton Empire. We're talking about witnessing the actual childhood of John Dutton III, the exact moments that forged the ruthless protector of the Yellowstone ranch we all know today.
And the emotional stakes tied to this specific year, they are absolutely staggering. Look, after that gut-wrenching finale of 1923, two world-shattering details came to light. First, we learned Alex gave birth to John Dutton II, only to tragically pass away shortly after. But the second detail, and the one that absolutely anchors our timeline, is that Spencer Dutton's death happens in 1969. That single devastating fact literally changes everything. It drops us right into the final dramatic years of arguably the franchise's most beloved character.
Which brings us to part 1, the fall of Spencer Dutton. So sitting right between the tragic loss of Alex back in 1923 and his ultimate final stand in 1969, Spencer Dutton essentially had to endure an entire lifetime of grief. We're looking at a man completely broken by this unyielding responsibility, right? He's forced into decades of just grim survival, all while raising John II. The psychological toll of that massive time gap is really where the true narrative weight lies here. I mean, think about what it took for this man to keep holding an empire together when he had already lost his absolute primary reason for living.
And honestly, that brings us to a super compelling but incredibly volatile possibility. Spencer actually attempting to move forward. Remember how the 1923 finale teased that widowed woman? Well, that basically opens the door for Spencer to maybe build a new life and, potentially, have a hidden son born later down the line. It's one of those seemingly small details that could completely destabilize an already very fragile Dutton family tree.
And that perfectly sets up part 2, Yellowstone's internal civil war. Because if a son of Spencer Dutton grows up right alongside John Dutton II, the stage is pretty much set for absolute disaster. Now let's add Elizabeth to this equation. We know she left Montana pregnant, heading back out to Boston. Just imagine the cinematic powder keg if she returns to the ranch years later with Jack's son. So on one side, you've got Spencer's heir, raised right there in the blood and dirt of the ranch, and on the other, Jack's heir, returning from the East Coast. It is quite literally a recipe for the most devastating Dutton civil war we've ever seen. But, amidst all this potential warfare lies a really fascinating core mystery. When you look at Kevin Costner's legendary portrayal in the modern era, there is one undeniable trait that defines John Dutton. He is guarded, detached, and frankly emotionally ruthless with his own children. So the crucial question we have to ask is, where exactly was that coldness forged?
Let's dive into part 3, Shaping John Dutton III.
1969 is uniquely positioned to actually show us how that legendary patriarch was created. Think about it. Perhaps his father, John II, was just entirely cold toward him, completely crushed by the heavy weight of running the ranch. So the only profound connection young John III might actually find is with an aging, heavily battle-hardened Spencer. Picture Spencer stepping into that classic grandfather role, telling young John these larger-than-life stories of war in Africa, and of course his tragic love for Alex. Honestly, those quiet, fireside moments, they could easily become the emotional anchor for the entire series.
And we can't forget, there's another monumental figure just waiting to be explored here, Evelyn Dutton. 1969 could finally reveal the true origins of John and Evelyn's relationship. Watching them fall in love as just innocent teenagers, all while this extreme chaos and violence is slowly closing in on the ranch around them. I mean, that would provide such a tragic foundation. It would make the modern-day Yellowstone story hit that much harder, for sure.
Moving right along to part 4, Rainwater and Ranch Wars.
Because way beyond the internal family drama, the ranch is obviously facing brutal external threats. Blood is inevitably going to spill over land disputes and the constantly shifting political power in the American West, but within all that chaos lies a massive storytelling opportunity, the return of the Rainwater family. Watching a young John Dutton III and a young Thomas Rainwater cross paths as actual children, that would carry incredible narrative weight. It would be an absolute masterclass in foreshadowing the bitter, lifelong rivalry that ends up defining their future.
Which leads us perfectly into part 5, the ultimate 1969 cast.
Now, bringing a generation this complex to life, it requires actors who can carry the immense, heavy weight of the Dutton legacy. For an aging Spencer Dutton, Kurt Russell is the most prominent rumor going around, and man, that choice feels like absolutely perfect casting. Then for the massive role of John Dutton II, Matthew McConaughey has been tied to this universe for years now. Him stepping into this lead would instantly make the spin-off an epic television event. And to bring all that Boston-raised tension back to the Valley, Jeremy Renner is heavily rumored to be playing Jack's son.
But hey, we also have to consider the returning legacy cast. Brendan Sklenar completely anchored 1923, and whether it's through aging effects or just some incredibly shot flashbacks, his return as a younger Spencer is highly anticipated, right alongside Michelle Randolph as Elizabeth. Though honestly, the most crucial connective tissue would be Isabel May reprising her role as the narrator. Her haunting, incredibly emotional voice as Elsa Dutton really gave those prequels their unique atmosphere. Bringing her back would just seamlessly bridge 1969 to the rest of the saga. And the supporting cast rumors are just as intense. John Bernthal is rumored for Spencer's half-brother. I mean, talk about bringing a gritty screen presence that just flawlessly fits into Taylor Sheridan's world. And then, for the absolutely critical role of young John Dutton III, Jacob Tremblay is a somewhat surprising, but honestly brilliant name being thrown around. He definitely possesses the profound emotional depth you'd need to portray the formative years of such a highly complex character. So the ultimate question is, when will this series actually see the light of day? Well, while there isn't any official confirmation just yet, when you consider Paramount's massive ongoing investment in the franchise, the expansion of this universe is pretty much a certainty. If development keeps accelerating, a 2027 release window is highly probable. Make no mistake, 1969 is perfectly positioned to be the ultimate bridge between the old legends of the frontier and the modern Dutton dynasty.
The foundation is officially set for civil war, for profound heartbreak, and for the forging of a legendary patriarch. But I want to leave you with this thought. In a story packed with this much potential tragedy, what are you waiting to see the most? Are you looking for the final, bloody chapters of Spencer Dutton? Maybe the brutal, unforgiving reality of the Montana ranch wars? Or is it witnessing the deep trauma that ultimately created young John Dutton III? The entire legacy of the ranch hangs in the balance here. Take care and keep questioning the history of the Duttons.